So Capcom VA Ruben Langdon confirms Newsweek hit piece led to his Street Fighter recasting. When we covered this previously, I don't think we knew that it was a hit piece written by Newsweek that got him recast. He says he's still attached to Devil May Cry, where he voices Dante, because series director, quote, saw what a bunch of BS it was. Now we're going to read this, but if I recall correctly, he particularly got outed for sharing he tweeted out one of Recasta's streams of the Rittenhouse verdict, right? Something like that. So following months of public speculation that, given a recent string of absences from a number of recent Capcom outings, his personal socio-political opinions had resulted in his being labeled a persona non grata by the Japanese developer. Voice actor Ruben Langdon has clarified that while a misinterpretation of his words has indeed resulted in his expulsion from the Street Fighter franchise, it has had no effect on his continued performance as Devil May Cry stylish protagonist. So hold on. Gina Carano's lawsuit against Disney is being paid for by Elon Musk. I just think that Ruben Langdon deserves to throw his hat in the ring with the money of Elon Musk to sue Capcom. As previously reported, suspicions surrounding the longtime Ken Masters and Dante voice actors' expulsion from Capcom were first raised in 2021 when, following a dishonest attempt by Newsweek 3 years earlier to paint him as a right-wing extremist and conspiracy theorist based on both criticisms he made towards the potential for corruption inherent in Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movements, as well as compliments he gave Vic Mignogna's character amidst the height of the Kick Vic campaign. The Devil May Cry Peak of Combat MOBA game was inexplicably released with not Langdon, but rather PM Seymour in the role of the franchise's red-coated lead. So now Dante, how many people have voiced Dante? Like 4? Wasn't like Ray Coombs the original voice? And then Ruben Langdon, and then whoever voices him in DMC. Is that what's just called DMC? The one that has like the black hair? Fan fears towards the voice actor's firing were then further compounded when, in 2022, it was announced, likewise, without explanation, that rather than Langdon, the series' red-geed Shotokan practitioner in the then upcoming Street Fighter VI would instead be brought to life by David Matranga, not spelled correctly, who voices Todoroki in My Hero Academia. Is it Mantronga? It's not Mantronga, is it? Ha! Showing results for David Matranga. And unfortunately for those seeking clarification on the matter, the next few years would see their questions left unanswered, as rather than publicly comment on his Capcom career, Langdon chose to maintain radio silence and instead shift his attentions to raising awareness on such topics as UFO disclosure, U.S. government authoritarianism, such as their campaign to force COVID vaccinations, and social media censorship. However, this silence would eventually be broken on February 19th when, thanks to organization efforts provided by video game-centric YouTuber Mikel Casanova, streamer and ESTV minority owner Tenryo the Light, Twitch streamers Boomer Tyro, and Captain Davebeard, I have heard of none of these, and Twitter user The Otaku One, Langdon hosted a Twitter space discussion with the intention of setting the record straight regarding his future as either of the developer's iconic red-themed heroes. Beginning on the topic of Street Fighter, the voice actor unfortunately confirmed to listeners that not only was his dropping from the role of Ken permanent, but that it had in fact been directly caused by the aforementioned Newsweek hit piece. So in 2019, recalled the voice actor, recapping his side of the story from square one, I'm back in Japan, and I did an interview for some guys out in Florida, YouTubers Toy Bounty Hunters, Hero Hey, and Yellow Flash, the details of which can be found in our previous coverage here. Oh, I guess I missed that one. I didn't even know them very well or what their background was. They just asked me if I could come on and do an interview for Devil May Cry 5 since either it had just come out or was just coming out. In that interview, they brought up this whole fiasco with Vic Mignogna, and because I had worked with Vic, they were sort of asking my opinion. I had no idea. I didn't know what kind of trouble Vic was in. I didn't know what was going on there. They had asked me some questions about my experience working with him, and I just told them, hey, as far as I know, Vic's been a stand-up guy. He's been a man of his word to me. I can't say him otherwise. Okay. And as far as I've seen him navigate things with women and that kind of thing, of course he seems like a ladies' man, but it never seemed like it went much further than that. Then you hear all this stuff, and I'm like, I can't comment on that, said Langdon. So then I started talking about other stuff, like the Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter, and how those groups start off as a good thing, but oftentimes they get hijacked. And at that time, I guess it was still a little too early to say that, because now we know. Look at the leaders of Black Lives Matter and what they've done with the money and all the stuff we know with the Me Too movement and all. So he continued, Newsweek calls me and says, hey, we want to do an interview with you in regard to your comments that you did in that podcast. And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. This was all done by email, and I have the records. I have the receipts, and I said, sure, I'd be happy to do an interview and talk about what I said about Me Too and Black Lives Matter and clarify that if you wish. However, when it comes to Vic, I'm not going to comment because I don't know the situation, and it's not my place to say anything. Then this Newsweek article by that writer, no idea who it was, came out and was basically taking things that I had said in the interview out of context, or with no context, and just saying Ruben said this and that about Black Lives Matter and Me Too, that I'm a right-wing extremist, that I'm a UFO alien believer, crazy nutcase. Which is crazy because 2 months prior, Newsweek had interviewed me for a magazine article, Newsweek Special Edition, Life Beyond Earth, talking about extraterrestrials, and talking about ETs and extraterrestrial life. I don't know what the difference is. They did an article on me, and I'm highlighted in a positive way. This other guy from Newsweek puts out this total fake news article. I was telling my wife about how fake news is a real thing and how even mainstream media goes in and does hit pieces on other whistleblowers. This is the conspiracy theory stuff before my situation. And she was with me, but not really. And then this whole thing came out and she was witness to everything that happened. So some people wrote Capcom, particularly Street Fighter series producer Yoshinori Ono-san. He saw it, and I guess he lost his shit. He didn't understand the nuances and didn't bother to reach out to ask what the hell was going on. He got super scared and actually called. I remember this very clearly because this was a few days before E3 started. My partner calls me and he goes, Ruben, what the fuck did you do? Who the fuck is his partner? He was talking about his wife a second ago. What the fuck did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't do anything. You don't realize how much damage you've done. We just lost the Street Fighter gig. So I guess his partner is his agent. And he said, yeah, because of that Newsweek article, we, the motion capture company, that must be the partner, Just Cause Productions, that I was no longer a part of, actually lost a multi-million-dollar gig because Ono, in a sense, thought that I was still part of the company, which I wasn't. Didn't do any research, any homework, didn't look into it, or even bother to have a conversation. That is how the Japanese are, though. Like, if there's anything that's giving bad publicity, I mean, it is like fucking cut off the whole limb, you know? Like, that is how they operate. I tried to arrange a meeting so I could sit down with Ono-san and explain what happened, that this was all taken out of context, but that this was not the case. It was a hit piece, literally, from this Newsweek guy, he asserted. But Ono-san wouldn't have it. He wouldn't even take a meeting. It was crazy. Everybody was trying to get me a meeting, Langdon told his hosts. So, you know, I just left it as is. Did my apologies to my partner. I'm sorry that this happened this way. This is just a crazy world we're in. It turned out later that there were other issues with Ono-san. I think he publicly quit, but there was a lot going on there that I think Capcom was already ready for him to move on. And the project met all kinds of delays because of that. There were script issues. Even the director was switched and off the project. There were a lot of issues. Boy, the way these direct quotes, man, I wish they would localize them a little bit so I could fucking read them. And it's so difficult to read people speaking off the cuff and rambling, you know, in quote. So basically all that happened, he continued. Years later, COVID hits. And then, yes, I'm very vocal about the jab, about the forced vaccinations, which is breaking of a Nuremberg code from World War II to force inject anyone with anything without their consent. We already learned this lesson. And just to see this industry, my industry, the entertainment particularly, take that stance broke my heart, and I was like, I don't want any part of this. Following this lengthy testimony, Langdon then assured fans that while he may no longer be gracing their speakers during the occasional round of Street Fighter, neither the Newsweek hit piece nor his personal opinions had any effect on his continued role as Dante. Honestly, if we're like realistically looking at this, it's actually almost a benefit for him to get pulled off of Street Fighter right before Street Fighter went head over heels woke, right? And then for him to now be freed up to do a different role and stick with Devil May Cry, which, as far as I know, has been more or less unwoke. I haven't really heard much about the last game other than that crazy chick that has the van or whatever being like annoying. I think people described her. Anyway, so they say, and so a few months after that, he told listeners, Devil May Cry series director Hideaki Itsuno-san calls up and says, "Hey, Ruben, can you come back to Japan and do a mocap? We're going to do a special edition of Devil May Cry 5. So I went back and I asked Itsuno-san and my partner too, what's the deal? How come you guys didn't flip out over Ruben's Newsweek article? And they were like, yeah, we just looked into it and it's fine. So the Devil May Cry team, including looked into and saw what a bunch of BS it was. The voice actor laughed, including Itsuno-san. They did the research and totally validated that I didn't say anything to offend anyone, or I wasn't whatever Newsweek tried to make me out as, all the lies, so it was fine. I haven't talked to Itsuno-san lately, he added, but as far as I know, our relationship's fine. I haven't been canceled. I haven't been spanked or told otherwise. To this end, Langdon then explained that his absence from Devil May Cry Peak of Combat was not due to his beliefs or views, but rather budgetary constraints on behalf of his developer, because this is the mobile game. The China-based Nebula Joy. The night before the recording, I got an email from the lady saying, "We're so sorry to do this to you, Ruben, but this project has been canceled." Oh. And I knew that was sort of, okay, something happened probably with the finances where they weren't able to afford it or something along that line. They literally probably didn't have enough money to finish the game or at least hire professional voice actors or whatever, Ruben then stressed. That doesn't mean I was canceled. This doesn't mean Capcom hates me, because this happened with the 2007 Madhouse produced anime and other projects. It wasn't up to Capcom to cast me. Who voices him in the Madhouse anime?
My anime lists Ruben Langdon.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. I'm not sure why he brought that up. Quote, "We're talking about budgets. We're talking about outsourcing." He ultimately concluded his side of the story. "These are things that Capcom doesn't necessarily, or Itsuno-san doesn't have the power over. The Chinese company, everybody's working within these parameters, and it didn't work out. And just because it didn't work out doesn't mean I was canceled." He seems really stuck on being canceled and not wanting to be lumped in with other people who have been canceled. So anyway, he's not canceled. Hashtag not canceled. Although... like I said, dodged a bullet by getting outed from Street Fighter right before it went overtly woke.